What frequency hides the harmony of the universe, and was it deliberately taken away from us? One of the most existential questions of our time. This is where the conspiracy comes from. At some point, governments around the world issued a decree ordering everyone to tune to 440 Hz. There is said to be something sinister about the frequency of 440 Hz. It is said that the Rockefeller Foundation had an interest in ensuring that the United States adopted the 440 Hz standard in 1935 as part of the war on consciousness, leading to control of the musical cult. This theory says that tuning all the music in the world to 440 Hz turns it into a weapon of war. Is this so? There are many serious studies confirming the destructive influence of the 440 Hz frequency on humanity. There are those who dispute the theory. But are they convincing enough, or just a handful of dust in the eyes? We are about to find out in this video. The A key is the musical key that represents the starting point for tuning musical instruments. A device called a tuning fork always picks up the A tone in the same way, but it arose only in 1711. How then were musical instruments tuned before then? The answer is that the musicians used their ears. They tuned the notes to each other and the instruments to each other. They knew the pitches or the frequencies without even having that scientific knowledge, and which ones sounded good to them together. After all, many early works use a gland frequency of up to 432 Hz for the A tone, tuned just by feel. Interesting, isn't it? However, how does the change from 432 Hz to 440 Hz allegedly affect people? It is said that as a result of it, people begin to think and feel in a certain way. They plunge into inner chaos. In 1953, Goebbels' decree was approved by the International Organization for Standardization, ISO. A change was made and 440 Hz was introduced as the standard, despite the protests of Professor Dissonant of the Paris Conservatoire, who wrote a referendum signed by 23,000 French musicians. They have insisted that the tuning frequency of the La tone of 432 Hz not be changed in order to preserve musical harmony and the musical vibration of the universe. According to the conspiracy theory, the La tone tuned to 432 Hz was quite deliberately hidden from the world, because this is the point of balance in nature. 432 Hz is a vibration represented in the principle of the golden ratio, also known as the golden ratio or divine proportion, and unites the properties of light, time, space, matter, gravity and magnetism to biology, the DNA code and consciousness. The natural tuning of 432 Hz has profound effects on consciousness at the cellular level in our body. By tuning musical instruments and using them at 432 Hz instead of 440 Hz, atoms and DNA begin to resonate in harmony with the spiral of the golden ratio in nature, shares Brian T. Collins. The simplest explanation is found in the argument that a note has 12 harmonics because it resonates with 12 notes of the musical scale with the middle and sustained tones. These 12 harmonics are present when a note is tuned to 432 Hz. Music tuned to 440 Hz is said to be much poorer. The frequency of planet Earth is 8 Hz. Alpha waves, the frequency of the brain in a relaxed state, are also waves with a frequency of 8 Hz. But when we listen to music tuned to 440 Hz, it makes this fundamental 8 Hz change to 8.25 Hz, which means that the harmonics generated are out of harmony with the planet. Humans vibrate in the frequency range of 16 to 32 Hz, which is equivalent to the musical scale from low C to high C, or 1 octave. The setting of 440 Hz is not harmonic with the frequency of the human being because the fundamental becomes 16.5. When we listen to music at 440 Hz, the first thing we notice is lethargy, tiredness, a desire to do nothing. And this happens because the harmonics of this music do not correspond to a person's vibrational frequency. Archaic Egyptian instruments that have been discovered so far are mostly tuned to 432 Hz. Music is vibration, energy. Each person's voice has its own sound frequency. Thoughts are also waves that are filled with either harmony or dissonance. For centuries, Indian philosophers have been treating and maintaining people's health with the help of speech. In the book, The Secret Power of Music, David Tyne claims that there is not a single function in the human body that is not subject to music. Research shows that music affects digestion, internal secretion, blood circulation, nutrition, breathing, etc. It affects the body in two ways, with a direct effect, that is, influence of sound on cells and organs, and indirectly, through the impact on emotions, which in turn influence many processes in the human body. Another theory states that our subconscious, our organism understands that the frequency of 432 Hz is an awakening, an opening of the heart center of love, harmony and joy. It is called the frequency of the universe. And 440 Hz is a mental level, the level of the ego, of control, fear and power. We can also hear that music with a frequency of 432 Hz soothes, sounds clear and pleasant to the ear, positively affects the chakras, expands the feelings through the heart chakra, and accelerates our spiritual growth. Archaic Egyptian instruments have been found that were tuned to a frequency of 432 Hz. In ancient Greece, musical instruments were also mostly tuned to 432 Hz, as were the instruments of Orpheus. Plato, Hippocrates, Aristotle, Pythagoras, and other great thinkers and philosophers of antiquity possessed invaluable knowledge about the healing effect of music on man and cured many diseases precisely with the power of music. Recently, the American mathematician and historian J. Kennedy, who works at the University of Manchester in Great Britain, announced that he had discovered the secret code hidden in the works of Plato. Kennedy argues that Plato shared the Pythagorean notions of the music of the spheres as the musical harmony of the universe and built his works on the laws of musical harmony. These original sound frequencies were also used in ancient Gregorian chants, such as the Great Hymn of St. John the Baptist. According to church authorities, they were lost many centuries ago. These powerful frequencies were discovered by Dr. Joseph Puleo and described in Dr. Leonard Horwitz's book, The Healing Codes for Biological Apocalypse. Here are the healing codes of the notes in the tonal scale according to this theory. Up to 396 Hz, freedom from guilt and fear. 417 Hz, erases traumatic experiences and facilitates change. 528 Hz, can bring about beautiful transformation and miracles in life. DNA restoration, resonates with the human body and nature. 639 improves and strengthens relationships with others. 741 Hz, awakening intuition, provides the power of self-expression, cleanses toxins at the cellular level. 852 Hz, return to spiritual order. The frequency of 432 Hz is obtained in an interesting way. 24 hours times 60 minutes times 60 seconds equals 86,000. 400 divided by 2 equals 43,200. It is here, however, that the theory loses ground and is contested. From another theory, that argues that arguments for numerical or mystical properties of the number 432 are untenable. It is important to understand that 432 Hz refers to the number of vibrations per second, and 1 second is a rather arbitrary unit. But how come 1 second is 1 second? Originally, from ancient times until the Middle Ages, an hour was divided into 2, 3, 4 or 12 equal parts, but never into 60, so that even the concept of a minute did not exist. Fractions of a minute were not used at all, because there were no devices that could measure such short periods of time. If we had stuck with dividing everything into 12 parts, a second could be 1/12 of a minute, or perhaps 1 divided by 17/28 of an hour. 17/28 equals 12 times 12 times 12, which would give a completely different numerical value for the same frequency. This leads to the conclusion that the current definition is just a coincidence. The practice of dividing a minute into 60 smaller segments did not appear until the 16th century. And even then different clocks measured at slightly different speeds. To standardize the measurement of time, people define units of time by taking an average of the length of a day, which is some fraction of a year, which they then measure as the time it takes the Earth to rotate on its axis relative to the Sun. The first clocks that could track seconds more accurately over longer periods were not constructed until the 18th century. However, here we come to an even bigger but. In the 1940s, scientists discovered that the Earth's rotation rate was not constant, and the second was eventually redefined as the duration of the 9,192,000,000